lesson is 1-3, using exponents and place value. So our essential question is, how can you write a number as a product of repeated multiplication? So I want you to pause and write down the essential question as well as the lesson. Now, if you look at this picture right here, it's actually pretty helpful in explaining what exponents are. So you can see that they started out with 2 times 2 times 2, and that becomes 2 to the third power because there are 3 of them. And 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. So I would revisit this picture at any point in the lesson if you become confused. Alright, so we have 4 vocabulary words today. We have power, which means to show how many times to use the number in multiplication. Exponential form is an expression that includes an exponent. Our third word is exponent, a symbol that shows how many times the number is multiplied by itself, and that is very similar to the word power. And then our fourth word is base, the number that is going to be raised to the power. So in this example, 8 is our base, and 3 is our exponent. So I would jot this down if you think that's something that you might forget. Alright, example number 1. Write 10,000 as repeated multiplication of tens. So here's how we can think about this. We know when we start multiplying tens, let's say 10 times 10 equals 100. Okay, so then let's multiply 100 by another 10. We get 1,000. And if we multiply 1,000 by another 10, we get the number that we were looking for, which is 10,000. So I used 1, 2, 3, 4 tens. So to write that, I would write 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, which they did not ask us for exponential form, but just to show you, if they did, that would be 10 to the 4th power, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4 tens. Alright, example number 2. They give us 7 times 7 times 7 times 7, and they want us to write that in exponential form. So 7 is our base, and then our exponent, we just count how many times we multiplied 7, and we did that 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So that becomes our exponent. 7 to the 4th power is one way that we could say that. Example number 3. Pretty simple here. We have 6 to the 3rd power. 6 is our base, and 3 is our exponent. If we were to write that out, it would look like 6 times 6 times 6. Why did I do that? Because my exponent is 3, which tells me that I need 3 6s. Our last example here, this one is a little more tricky, so make sure you're paying attention. Make sure to rewind if you want to rewatch this. So we have the number 37,169, and they want us to write that in expanded form using exponents. So think back to when we did expanded form. You start to the left. My first number is 3, and I'm going to put that in parentheses. 3. Now we're going to be multiplying by powers of 10. So I have 3 times 10. Now, how do I figure out what my exponent is? Well, the way that I do that is I count how many numbers are after the 3, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So it becomes 3 times 10 to the 4th power. That's my first part. Now I forget about the 3, and I move on to the 7. in between those, I put a plus sign, always. So I do another parentheses. So now I'm at the 7 here. Remember, we're multiplying by powers of 10. How many numbers are after the 7? There's 1, 2, 3. Remember, 7 is in the thousands place, 3 after the 1,000, so that becomes to the 3rd power. Plus, now that I'm done with 7, I can almost even cross those out if I want. I move on to the 1. 1 times 10. I figure out my power by counting how many numbers after it. There are 2. So it becomes to the 2nd power. End parentheses, plus sign. Then I move on to the 6. Since there's only one number after the 6, I can put a 1, but I really don't need to do that because we know that anything times 1 is just the same number, so that's up to you. And then we have plus. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky, not too hard though. 9 times 10 to the 0 power, because there are 0 numbers after 9. Anything multiplied by 0 becomes 0. So that's how you do expanded form. I highly recommend you watch that from beginning to end again if you found any part of that confusing. And we will be practicing in class if you need a little more help with that. Here are your practice problems. For number 2, when it says solve, it means solve 2 to the 8th power. So that's going to be 2 multiplied by itself how many times? Think about it that way. Okay, and then don't forget to fill out the last part of your page if you have any questions, or if you do not have any questions, you need to create a word problem. And then at the very bottom, you need to rate your understanding 1 through 4.